The boy who should have walked away. The storm came without warning. One moment the valley lay quiet beneath the late afternoon sky, bathed in golden light that spilled gently across the fields and rooftops. The wind carried the scent of warm earth and distant rain, but nothing unusual, nothing that spoke of danger. And then, the light vanished. Not dimmed, not faded. Vanished. Darkness rolled over the land like a living thing swallowing the sun whole. Clouds twisted unnaturally, churning as though stirred by something massive hidden just beyond sight. The air changed. Heavy, pressing, wrong. Even the birds fell silent. Aaron noticed immediately. He stood at the edge of the forest, a bundle of firewood balanced against his shoulder. His breath slowed as he looked up, eyes narrowing at the sky that seemed to be moving. Not drifting. Not forming. Watching. That's not a normal storm. The words left him quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Behind him, the village had already begun to react. Doors slammed shut, voices called out warnings. Livestock were rushed inside with hurried urgency. The elders, those who remembered older, darker times, were already gathering at the center of the village, their expressions tight with unease. Because they recognized this. Storms like this didn't belong to nature. They belonged to something else. Something older. Something feared. Aaron adjusted his grip on the firewood. He should go back. He knew that. Everyone knew what storms like this meant. Dragons. The word itself was never spoken loudly, as if saying it might draw attention, but it lingered in every whispered warning, in every hurried step back toward safety. Dragons did not pass overhead without reason. And when they did, things burned. Aaron exhaled slowly. Yeah, I should head back. But his feet didn't move. Not yet. Instead, he kept watching the sky. There was something off. No lightnings. No thunder. Just that low, distant rumble, deep enough to feel in his chest rather than hear with his ears. Like a heartbeat. Or breathings. The forest behind him shifted uneasily, leaves rustling without wind. Even the insects had gone silent, leaving behind a stillness that pressed against his ears. And then, it came. A sound so faint he almost missed it. A cry. Aaron froze. His head tilted slightly, listening. The sound came again. Weak. Broken. Barely more than a whisper carried on the heavy air. What was that? It wasn't thunder. It wasn't the wind. And it definitely wasn't humans. Aaron turned slowly, scanning the darkened tree line. There it was again. A small, trembling sound. Pain, fear, and something else. Something that didn't fit. That's not an animal. He knew the forest, knew its sounds, its rhythms. Every creature had its voice, its patterns. This didn't belong. The cry came again. Softer this time. Fading. Aaron's chest tightened. Someone's hurt. The thought came instinctively. Immediate. Humans. He shifted the firewood off his shoulder, letting it fall to the ground without a second thought. His mother would scold him. The elders would warn him. Anyone else would turn back. Because the sky above them screamed danger. Because storms like this didn't happen without reason. Because whatever was out there should be left alone. Aaron knew all of that. He understood the risk. He felt it in the tension crawling up his spine. And still, he stepped forward. Just a look, he muttered, if it's nothing, I'll go back. The lie was thin. He knew it, but he told it anyway. And then, he ran. The deeper he went into the forest, the worse it became. The air grew hotter. Thicker, harder to breathe. Branches cracked beneath his boots as he pushed forward, the faint cries guiding him through the darkening woods. They were getting weaker. That terrified him more than anything else. Hold on, he whispered under his breath as though the unseen voice could hear him. I'm coming. The ground changed beneath his feet. Soft soil turned hard. Then brittle. Then, lash. Aaron skidded to a stop. The forest ahead was gone. Not cleared. Not cut. Destroyed. Trees stood blackened and hollow, their trunks split and charred as if struck by lightning over and over again. The earth itself was scorched, cracked open like dry bone, thin tendrils of smoke rising into the heavy air. What happened here? The words barely left his lips. This wasn't natural. This wasn't even normal destruction. It looked like something had fallen from the sky and taken the world with it. The cry came again, so faint it was almost nothing. But it was there. Aaron swallowed hard. I'm close. He stepped forward again. Carefully now. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. To run. To get as far away from this place as possible. Because this was where something had happened. Something powerful. Something dangerous. And things like that didn't leave without reason. Or without returning. But the cry, it came again. And this time, it broke. Aaron's chest tightened painfully. No, he moved faster, ignoring the heat, ignoring the fear clawing at his thoughts, ignoring the voice in his head that told him he was making a terrible mistake. Because something, was dying, and he couldn't just walk away. The crater appeared suddenly. One step the ground was cracked and burned. The next, it dropped away entirely. Aaron stumbled, catching himself just in time before tumbling down into the massive depression carved into the earth. Gods! It was enormous. Far too large to be natural. The ground had been torn apart, rock shattered outward in jagged lines as if something immense had struck with unstoppable force. At the center, something moved. Aaron's breath caught. Slowly, carefully, he stepped down into the crater. The heat was stronger here. The air heavier. Every step felt wrong. Like walking into the aftermath of something he was never meant to witness. And then, he saw it, and everything stopped. No way. It was small. So small. Curled in on itself, barely larger than a young dog, its body trembling with each shallow breath. Its scales, what he could see of them, were dull, cracked, lacking the gleam that stories always spoke of. One wing lay twisted beneath it. Broken. The membrane torn, bone visibly misaligned in a way that made Aaron's stomach twist. And its side. Burned. But not by fires. The wounds were pale, almost white, as if something had drained the life out of the flesh itself. Magic. Cold. Unnatural. Aaron's hands trembled. Dragons. The word felt unreal. Impossible. Dragons weren't this small. Weren't this fragile. They were monsters of legend, creatures of fire and destruction, beings that turned armies to ash and skis to flame. They were not. This. A broken, dying thing curled helplessly in the dirt. The hatchling's eye flickered open. And for a moment, Aaron forgot how to breathe. It wasn't anger. Wasn't rage. Wasn't the burning fury the stories promised. It was fear. Pure, raw, and fatting. The hatchling tried to move. It couldn't. A weak sound escaped it, half a cry, half a breath, and its head dropped back against the scorched earth. Aaron's chest tightened painfully. You're dying. The words came out hollow. Obvious. Useless. But he said them anyway. Because saying nothing felt worse. The hatchling didn't respond. It didn't have the strength to. Aaron looked around quickly. The crater. The burned trees. The unnatural wounds. This hadn't been an accident. You didn't fall. The realization hit him slowly. He was brought down. Or she. Or it. It didn't matter. Someone had done this. Hunters. Dragon hunters. The stories whispered about them, people who hunted dragons not out of fear but for power. For scales. For blood. For things Aaron didn't even want to understand. If they had done this, they might come back. Aaron's stomach twisted. I shouldn't be here. His voice shook. This was beyond him. Beyond anything he could handle. If those hunters returned, if the mother of this creature returned, he would die. No question. No chance. Aaron took a step back. Then another. His breathing quickened. I have to go. It was the right choice. The only choice. Anyone would say the same. Anyone would understand. Because this wasn't his problem. This wasn't his fight. This was something bigger. Something dangerous. Something he had no right interfering with. The hatchling made a sound. So faint it barely existed. A broken whimper. Aaron froze. He closed his eyes tightly. Don't. He didn't know who he was talking to. The hatchling. Himself. The world. Don't do that. Another weak breath. Another trembling sound. Fouting. Aaron's hands clenched into fists. Damn it. He turned back. Slowly, carefully, he stepped toward the hatchling again. Every instinct screamed at him to stop. To run. To survive. But he ignored it. Because right now, this wasn't a dragon. This wasn't a monster. This wasn't a legend. This was a child. And it was dying. Well, hey. His voice was softer now. Gentler. I'm not going to hurt you. The words felt absurd. Meaningless. But he said them anyway. The hatchling didn't react. Didn't move. It barely breathed. Aaron knelt beside it. Up close it was worse. The wounds were deeper than he thought. The wing was shattered. The burns. Gods, the burns were spreading. Like something was eating away at it from the inside. If he didn't do something, you're not going to make it. Aaron swallowed hard. Then, he reached into his satchel. Bandages, water, simple supplies, human supplies. I don't know if this will work, he admitted quietly. But I'm not leaving you like this. He poured water gently over the wounds. The hatchling flinched weakly, a small sound escaping it. Aaron froze. Hey, it's okay. He kept his voice steady. Lo, it's going to hurt, I know. Carefully, he began cleaning the injuries. Setting the wing as best he could. Wrapping it tightly with cloths. The hatchling trembled beneath his hands. But it didn't fight. Didn't resist. It just endured. Aaron worked as quickly as he could. His hands shaking. His heart pounding. Because every second here was dangerous. Every moment increased the chance that something would come back. Something that would not hesitate. Almost done, he whispered. The words were for both of them. When he finished, he sat back slightly. Breathing hard. The hatchling's breathing had steadied. Just a little. It wasn't enough. But it was something. Aaron exhaled slowly. There you go. Above them, the storm shifted. A flash of light tore through the clouds. And for a single moment, Aaron thought he saw something massive moving within the darkness. Watching, he looked up sharply. Hello. Nothing. Only the swirling sky. But the feeling didn't leave. They weren't alone. They had never been alone. Aaron swallowed. We need to go. He looked back at the hatchling. At its fragile body. At the life still clinging to it. And he made the choice. The one that would change everything. I'm taking you with me. Lifting a dragon should have been impossible. It was, because it weighed almost nothing. Too little. Dangerously little. Aaron carefully gathered it into his arms, supporting its broken wing as best he could. The hatchling made a faint sound. But didn't resist. Didn't fight. It simply leaned. Ever so slightly. Into him. Aaron's throat tightened. I've got you. And with that, he turned away from the crater. From the destruction. From the place where everything should have ended. And began the long walk home. Behind him, High above the storm, something vast shifted within the clouds. Watching, waiting, and for the first time, not with fury, but with something far more dangerous. Interest. The promise that refused to fade. Aaron should not have survived the night. By every rule he had ever been taught, every whispered warning, every story told by firelight, what he had done was a death sentence. You do not bring a dragon into your home. You do not touch what belongs to the sky. And you never, ever interfere with something that powerful. But Aaron had done all of it. And somehow, he still breathed. The village slept uneasily beneath a sky that had not yet forgiven them. Though the storm had passed, its presence lingered like a shadow pressed into the air. The wind did not move, the night did not settle. It watched. Aaron felt it with every step. His arms trembled under the weight of the hatchling, not because it was heavy, but because it was not. Too light, too fragile. Every shallow breath against his chest felt like it might be the last. "Stay with me," he whispered, his voice barely more than breath, "just a little longer." The hatchling did not respond, but it did not fade either. And that was enough. For now, he didn't go home. He couldn't. Even as he approached the edge of the village, the familiar outlines of wooden homes and narrow paths brought no comfort, only danger. If anyone saw, if anyone even suspected, it would be over. Not just for him, for the creature in his arms. Aaron slowed, crouching behind the low stone wall that marked the outer boundary of the village. Lantern light flickered through windows. Voices murmured quietly within. Life, safe, normal, and completely incompatible with what he carried. "I can't bring you there." The hatchling stirred faintly, its head shifting weakly against his arm. Aaron looked down at it, his jaw tightening. They wouldn't understand. No, that wasn't true. They would understand perfectly. They would see a dragon, and they would destroy it. Aaron exhaled slowly. "I need somewhere else. Somewhere hidden. Somewhere forgotten. Somewhere no one would look." And then, he remembered. The old watchtower. Abandoned long before he was born, its purpose lost to time and overgrown by the forest itself. The elders spoke of it rarely, and when they did, it was with disinterest, not fear. It was simply gone. Forgotten, which made it perfect. The path was narrow, twisting, almost invisible beneath years of neglect. Branches clawed at Aaron's clothes as he pushed through, careful not to jostle the hatchling more than necessary. "Almost there," he murmured. The words felt meaningless, but he kept saying them anyway, because silence felt like giving up. The watchtower emerged slowly from the darkness, not as a structure but as a shadow. Stone cracked and worn, half consumed by creeping vines and moss. The upper levels had long since collapsed, leaving only a single intact chamber near the base. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. Aaron stepped inside. The air was cooler. Still, protected. Okay. He knelt carefully, lowering the hatchling onto a bed of old cloth, and debris he quickly cleared aside. For a moment, he just looked at it. At the fragile rise and fall of its chest. At the faint shimmer returning to its scales beneath the grime and blood. "You're still here." It felt like a miracle. A small one, but real. Aaron moved quickly. He gathered what he could, old fabric, dried moss, anything that could serve as padding or warmth. He made a nest. Crude, imperfect, but soft. Then he returned to the hatchling. "This is going to hurt again." His voice was apologetic. Gentle. He didn't know if it understood. But he said it anyway. Carefully, he began rewrapping the wounds. Cleaning them again. Checking the wing. It was bad. Worse than he'd thought. If it healed at all, it wouldn't be right. Aaron swallowed hard. "We'll figure it out." He didn't know how. But he would. He had to. Hours passed. The night deepened. And still, the hatchling did not die. It drifted. in and out of awareness, sometimes still, sometimes trembling. Once, it made a sound. Aaron looked up immediately. Well, hey, its eye opened slightly, clouded, unfocused, but opened, and for the first time, it saw him, not past him, not through him, at him. Aaron froze. Yeah, that's me. He didn't know why his voice dropped to a whisper. I'm still here. The hatchling blinked slowly. Then, its head shifted. Just barely, but enough. It leaned toward him. Aaron's breath caught. You're trusting me. The idea felt absurd. Impossible. And yet, the hatchling did not pull away. It did not fear him. It simply stayed. Aaron felt something tighten in his chest. Something unfamiliar. Something heavy. Okay. His voice steadied. Then I'm not going anywhere. Morning came slowly. Reluctantly. The storm was gone. The sky was clear. As if nothing had happened. But the world felt different. Aaron felt it the moment he stepped outside. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Not peaceful. Not calm. Watching. They know. The words came unbidden. He didn't know who they were. But he felt it. Something had changed. Something had noticed. And it wasn't going to forget. Aaron returned to the village briefly. Carefully. Quietly. He gathered what he could: food, water, herbs, avoiding questions, avoiding attention. Where were you last night? Someone asked. Out, Aaron replied simply. They frowned, but did not press. Because no one wanted to talk about the storm. No one wanted to think about what it meant. Aaron left as quickly as he could. Days passed, then more, and slowly, the hatchling began to change. At first it was small things. Its breathing steadied. Its eyes remained open longer. It began to move weakly, awkwardly, but deliberately. Aaron watched every change like it was life itself. Because it was. You're stubborn, he muttered one afternoon as the hatchling tried and failed to lift its head. It huffed softly. A faint, frustrated sound. Aaron smiled. Yeah, I get that. It ate on the fourth day. Barely. A small piece of meat held carefully in Aaron's hand. At first it didn't react. Then, slowly, it bit. Weak. Uncertain. But real. Aaron let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped inside him for days. That's it, he said softly. That's good. Hope. Small. Fragile. But growing. Weeks turned into months. And the hatchling lived. Not just survived. Lived. It grew stronger. Its movements steadied. The dullness of its scales faded, replaced by a faint, shimmering hue that caught the light in ways Aaron had never seen before. And its eyes. They changed. No longer clouded. No longer faddings. But bright. Sharp. Aware. Watching everything. Especially him. You need a name, Aaron said one evening, sitting beside it as sunlight filtered through the broken stone above. The hatchling tilted its head. Curious. Aaron considered. I can't keep calling you Hey. It made a soft sound. Almost amused. Aaron blinked. Did you just? He shook his head. Never mind. He looked at it again. At the way it watched him. At the quiet intelligence behind its gaze. Asira. The name came without thought. Without reason. But it felt right. Sira, he repeated. The hatchling blinked. Then, it shifted. Moving closer. Resting its head lightly against his shoulder. Aaron smiled. Yeah, that fits. Sira grew. Faster than anything Aaron had ever seen. Within months, she was no longer small enough to carry. Within a year, she could stand taller than him. Within 2, she could fly. Not perfectly. Not yet. Her wing, once broken, never healed quite right. It moved slightly differently, catching the air with a subtle imbalance. But she flew anyway. Because she refused not to. Aaron stood at the edge of the clearing, watching her struggle against the wind. You're going to fall. Sierra huffed. Annoyed. Determined. She leapt again. Wings spread wide. The air caught. And for a moment, she soared. Not high. Not far. But enough. Aaron laughed. You did it. Sierra landed hard, uneven, but upright. She turned toward him, a low rumble building in her chest. Pride. Aaron recognized it immediately. Yeah, he said, I saw. Years passed. And Sierra grew into something the stories had never prepared him for. Not just powerful. Not just massive. But aware. Deeply. She understood him. Not his words. Not exactly. But his tone. His emotions. His thoughts. In ways that went beyond anything Aaron could explain. When he was tired, she stayed close. When he was worried, she watched more carefully. When he laughed, she made that soft rumbling sound that had become familiar. And when he was silent, she waited, always patient, always present. But the world outside did not remain still. Rumors spread of dragons seen in distant mountains, of skis shifting in unnatural ways, of hunters returning, stronger, more organized. Aaron heard it all, and each time, his chest tightened. They're coming back, he said quietly one evening. Sierra lay beside him, her massive form curled comfortably within the clearing they now called home. She opened one eye, watching him. They won't stop, Aaron continued, not if they think there's something worth hunting. Sierra's gaze didn't waver. And you are. Silent, heavy, honest. Aaron exhaled slowly. You can't stay hidden forever. Sierra shifted, rising slowly. Her wings stretched wide, catching the fading light. She was enormous now, beautiful in a way that defied description, and powerful in a way that made the air itself seem to bend around her. But she didn't look proud. She didn't look afraid. She simply looked certain. Aaron frowned slightly. You already knew. Sierra stepped closer, lowering her head, pressing it gently against his shoulder. Aaron closed his eyes. Yeah, he understood. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The forest changed. Not all at once, but slowly, subtly. Animals moved differently. Birds flew higher. The air grew heavier, as if something watched from beyond sight. Aaron felt it every day. We're not alone anymore. Sierra's gaze lifted toward the sky. And for a moment, her eyes burned. Not with fear, not with anger, but with recognition. The hunters arrived at dawn. Not quietly, not hidden, but openly, confident, certain. Aaron saw them before they reached the clearing. Too many, armed, organized, prepared. So it begins. Sierra stood behind him, still, silent, watching. Aaron's hands clenched. We can still run. He turned to her. Right now we can leave, go deeper, hide. Sierra didn't move, didn't respond. She simply stepped forward, past him, into the opens. Sierra, Aaron's voice caught. She didn't stop. Her wings spread slowly, deliberately, catching the morning lights. And for the first time, Aaron felt it fully. The weight of what she had become. Not a hatchling, not something fragile, but something ancient, something powerful, something that did not hide. You're not running. It wasn't a question. Sierra didn't look back. She didn't need to. Aaron exhaled slowly. Then neither am I. And together, they stepped forward to meet what was coming. The day the sky remembered his name. Dawn did not break. It held its breath. The light came slowly, as if uncertain it should rise at all, spilling weak gold across the edges of a sky that still carried the memory of storms long past. The forest stood silent. Not calm, not peaceful. Waiting. Aaron felt it in his bones. That same pressure he had felt 12 years ago, standing at the edge of something he did not understand. That same quiet warning. Something was about to change. Again, the hunters moved with certainty. They were not like the scattered stories Aaron remembered from childhood, fearful men chasing legends with more arrogance than skill. These were different. Disciplined, armored, prepared. They moved through the forest like they belonged there, their steps measured, their formation tight. Weapons gleamed at their sides, blades etched with runes, crossbows reinforced with mechanisms Aaron had never seen before. And magic. He could feel it. Cold, sharp, lingering on them like a second skin. They've learned, Aaron muttered. Beside him, Sira stood motionless. But not passive. Never passive. Her body was coiled, her wings half spread, her gaze fixed on the approaching line of soldiers with an intensity that made the air itself tremble. She did not fear them, but she did not underestimate them either. Aaron swallowed. There's too many. Sira didn't move, didn't respond, but he felt it. That steady, unshakable certainty that had grown within her over the years. She was not thinking about numbers. She was thinking about something else. Something bigger. The hunters broke through the tree line and stopped because they saw her. For a moment, no one moved. Not the hunters, not Aaron's, not even the wind. Because standing in the clearing was no longer a creature of myth or rumor. It was reality. Massive, radiant, terrifying in a way that words could not hold. Sira stood in full view of the rising sun, her scales catching the light like molten glass, her wings stretching wide enough to cast shadows across the entire clearing. Her presence pressed against the world, demanding attention, demanding recognition. And for the first time, the hunters hesitated. By the gods, one of them whispered. Their leader stepped forward. Slowly, carefully. His armor was different, heavier, darker, etched with deeper runes that pulsed faintly with energy. He did not tremble, but his eyes, they sharpened. So it's true, he said. His voice carried. Cold, measured. There is a guardian here. Aaron stepped forward. Instinct. Nothing more. You need to live. The words came before he could stop them. The hunters turned, surprised, because they hadn't expected him. A human, standing beside a dragon. Alive, unharmed. The leader's gaze shifted, studying him. You're the ones. Aaron frowned. What? The man tilted his head slightly. The anomaly. Aaron's chest tightened. That thing should not tolerate your presence. Sira's growl cut through the clearing. Low, warning, immediate. The air vibrated with it. The hunters stiffened. Weapons shifted. Magic flared faintly. And suddenly, the moment shattered. Stand down, the leader ordered sharply. The command held. Barely. The hunters steadied, though their grips tightened. Their eyes never left Sira. We are not here to fight, the leader continued. Aaron didn't believe him. Not for a second. Then why are you here? The man's lips curved slightly. To claim what was lost. Sarah moved. Not forward. Not attacking. But rising. Higher. Larger. Her wings unfurled fully, catching the light in a blaze that forced every hunter to shield their eyes. Aaron felt it then. The shift. The same one he had felt 12 years ago. The moment before everything changed. Sarah, he whispered. She didn't look at him, but he knew. She heard. The leader raised his hand, and the hunters moved, not forward, but outward, forming a circle. Magic ignited along their weapons, lines of energy connecting them in a web of light that pulsed with controlled intensity. Aaron's breath hitched. They're not hunting. No, this wasn't a hunt. This was a capture. Sira roared, and the world answered. It began as a vibration. Low, deep, felt more than heard. The ground trembled. The air thickened. And the sky split open. A sound rolled across the heavens, ancient and vast, carrying a weight that no human voice could ever match. A chorus, a call, and something answered. The hunters froze. Every single one of them. Because they felt it too. That overwhelming presence. That impossible pressure. The leader's composure cracked just slightly as his gaze snapped upward. No, shadows moved across the clouds. Massive, endless, and descending. Aaron looked up and forgot how to breathe. Dragons, not ones, not a handful, but hundreds. Wings stretched across the sky like living storms, their forms cutting through the clouds as they descended in perfect, terrifying silence. Not chaotic, not wild, organized, intentional, watching, waiting. The hunters broke. Not all at once, but enough. Weapons lowered. Steps faltered. Because they understood. This was no longer their hunt. Sira lifted her head. And for the first time, she roared not in warnings, but in recognition. The dragons answered. The sound shook the world. They did not attack. They did not burn. They simply arrived, encircling the clearing, filling the sky, a living wall of power that made resistance meaningless. Aaron stood frozen. You called them. It wasn't a question. Sira lowered her head slightly. And in that moment, he understood. This had never been just about survival. This had never been just about hiding. She had always known. And they had always been watching. One dragon descended, larger than the rest, ancient beyond measure. Its scales carried the weight of time itself, marked by battles and ages long forgotten. When it landed, the earth bowed beneath it. Its gaze shifted, not to Sira, but to Aaron. And for a moment, the entire world held its breath. What is it doing? Aaron whispered. No one answered, because no one knew. The dragon stepped forward. Slow, deliberate. Its presence pressed against Aaron's mind, heavy and vast, like standing before something that existed beyond comprehension. Aaron couldn't move, couldn't breathe. And then, the dragon lowered its head and bowed. Silence shattered. The hunters staggered back. Some fell to their knees. Others dropped their weapons entirely. Because this was impossible. Dragons did not bow to anyone's, ever, and yet, it did. To him, Aaron's voice trembled. I don't understand. Sira stepped beside him, her presence steady, familiar, and suddenly, he heard her, not with his ears, but in his mind. Clear, warm, certain. You saved me. Aaron's breath caught. Sira, you chose not to walk away. His chest tightened. You were dying, and you stayed. The ancient dragon lifted its head slightly. And then, it spoke, not in words, but in something deeper. A resonance that carried meaning beyond language. Recognition, respect, gratitude. The hunters fled. They didn't run. They didn't fight. They simply left because they understood. This was not a battle they could win. This was not something they could challenge. This was something far beyond them. Aaron stood in the center of it all, surrounded by dragons, by power, by something ancient and vast. What happens now? Sira's presence wrapped around him. Steady, unwavering. Now they know. 12 years passed. The world changed slowly. At first, then all at once. Dragons were no longer whispers, no longer myths. They were sane, felt, known, and they did not bring destruction. They brought something else. Balance, understanding. Aaron did not seek recognition. He did not want powers. He simply lived as he always had. But the world did not forget. Because the sky did not forget. The day the fleet arrived, the world stopped. It began with lights. Not sunlight, not fire, but something different. The clouds parted, not violently, but deliberately, and through them, shapes emerged. Massive, silent, impossible. Ships, not made of wood, not forged of iron, but something else entirely. Their surfaces shimmered like living metal, their forms curved and fluid, moving with a grace that defied their size. And around them, dragons, hundreds, thousands, moving in perfect formation. A fleet, an empire, and at its center, Sira. She was no longer the hatchling he had carried. No longer the young dragon that had learned to fly beside him. She was vast. Her wings stretched across the sky, her presence bending the air itself as she descended. And on her backs, Aaron stood. The world watched. Kings, armies, entire nations. Because nothing like this had ever happened. Not in memories. Not in legend. Not in dreams. The fleet did not descend in war. It did not burn. It did not threaten. It arrived. Slowly, carefully, deliberately, and when Sira landed, the earth did not shake in fear. It welcomed her. Aaron stepped down. Older now, stronger, but unchanged where it mattered. He looked out at the gathered masses. At the fear, at the awe, at the uncertainty. And he spoke. They are not our enemies. His voice carried. Clear, steady. They never were. Sira lowered her head beside him. The ancient dragon descended once more. And then, something impossible happened. It bowed. Again. But this time, it was not alone. Every dragon in the sky followed. Every ship. Every being that had come across the stars. They bowed. To him. Not for power. Not for conquest. But for kindness. For a single choice made in a storm. For a boy who had refused to walk away. Aaron stood there, overwhelmed. You didn't have to do this. Sira's voice echoed softly in his mind. We did. Because you did. And in that moment, the world changed. Not through wars. Not through fear. But through something far stronger. Humanity had been seen. Not as destroyers. Not as conquerors. But as something else. Something rare. Something worth honoring. And far above, the sky remembered his name.